Hello, and welcome to the sixth episode of my podcast. Last week, I had the opportunity to talk to Jacob Simon, who was the assistant coach for track and field and cross country at the University of Florida under Coach Holloway. But actually, as of right now, he's now the new head coach for Southern New Hampshire University. This is recent news, so congratulations to him. That's awesome to hear. This is definitely a great episode for track and field and cross country athletes, no doubt. But I also feel like it's another great one for anyone who's trying to get recruited into college sports. So yeah, here we go. Hi, Jake. How's it going?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Super glad to have you here. You're actually my first track athlete and coach as well.
Yeah, man, it's an honor.
Awesome. Hey, so yeah, let's just get started with how you ended up in Florida. Where did you kind of start? I know you were an athlete and now a coach. So did your athletic journey kind of pick up, and what was that transition like?
Yeah, sure. So man, we gotta go all the way back to 2007. That was kind of when I was first introduced to the sport of cross country and track and field. Parents put me in a variety of sports, baseball, soccer. Was never really good at any of them. But I was always fast and just never worn out. So I think that's when I was first introduced to cross country in sixth grade, and then just kind of fell in love with the sport from there. So from sixth grade through high school, really just stuck with the sport, made it mine. Dropped soccer, dropped baseball. So that's kind of where my love for the sport began. Went on and did it in college. I ran for Seton Hall University. I ran 4 years there on the cross country team, and then I did my fifth year at Fairleigh Dickinson. I did a full year there with indoor and outdoor. And then honestly, the journey to coaching. So I studied at Seton Hall. I studied athletic training, or I was tracking athletic training. Didn't really turn out that way. Medical route wasn't for me. So I was like, okay, well, I want to be involved in sports, and somehow, how could I kind of make the push for that? So that's when I went to grad school, got my master's in sports admin, made a lot of connections with my different coaches. And then that's when for my first job out of college was coaching at a Division III school in Jersey City called New Jersey City University. I got connected there through the current head coach. He was also a Seton Hall alum. So it's kind of funny, you just make connections that way. He took me in and gave me my first job, and that was amazing. And then I was there for a year and a half through COVID and then into 2021. And then my personal life kind of made a turn. I got engaged with my girlfriend at the time, who was also a runner at Seton Hall. She's originally from Florida, so decided to just move down with her, and then reached out to Coach Holloway at UF. It was Coach Slinsky at the time. He was the distance coach. He is now the distance coach over at the University of Oregon. And they decided to just take me in, took a chance on me, and that's kind of how I ended up here today. Oh, thank you for turning that light on. So yeah, it's kind of how I ended up where I am now. So it's been a journey.
That's great to hear, and I think for a lot of people, some people, it's college and then professional sports, but I think a lot of college athletes kind of head into either coaching, whether it's college or just taking on that as their career path. And I think that's definitely an option for people to consider. Like, hey, I may not be able to play professionally, but how can I kind of bring sports into my life? So it's awesome to hear that you were able to kind of continue that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's been a blessing for sure. Because like you said, not a lot of people get the chance to do that. And to do it in the sport that you love and you're passionate about, that maybe not a lot of other people are into. It's amazing for sure.
That's awesome. So I think I'd love to just focus more on your experience here, as a coach and the University of Florida being having such a great program. I'd love to kind of talk about that. So, tell me about what it's like to be working with some great coaches and great athletes as well. And I guess describe to me how the coaching level changes from, either as a young as I know of course it's a big difference between high school and college, but
Mhm.
maybe between some other college programs and then as you get higher into Division 1, just tell me about that.
Right. So I've definitely experienced it from my own athletic journey. The difference between like a school at a mid major and a school like where I am now at the SEC. Biggest thing obviously is the amount of money that goes into the program for sure. I think that makes a huge difference in terms of recruiting and in terms of the resources that you get. So like a small D3 school like NJCU in Jersey City, don't have a lot of money for scholarships. So a lot of those kids are doing the sport for the love of it. And because it just something that helps occupy their time and throughout the day. Um, Whereas at a school like Florida, um, these people are trying to make this their career. So we get the top of line athletes, you get the money to invest in them. We have the facilities that are just immaculate. I mean, they have dining hall that's free access to them, the locker rooms, the nutritionists, the dietitians, the strength and conditioning coaches, and just the amount of coaches on staff. Like, it's really hard to be not successful at a place like this. And so I think when it comes to like the different levels, it really is just depending on the person you are and what you want to get out of the sport. Um, in terms of like getting to that level, I mean, again, it's got to be something that you love, something that you dedicate the time to, using all the resources that you can, trusting your coaches. Um, and for me, it was the biggest thing was just making the connections. I knew somebody who, like my college coach knows Coach Holloway. Reached out to him about me and said just take a chance on him. Um, so I think making the connections with the right people is definitely a big help as well. If you're interested in a program, this is something that I try to tell kids who are either being recruited to UF or want to, be a part of something. Just reach out. You never really know until you ask. So the worst thing someone could tell you is no, or honestly, no one's going to bluntly just tell you no. They're probably going to say it in a nicer way, or it's going to be more of like, okay, well, so happy you're interested in our program. Here's the standards that we have, or here are the things that you could do to get to that level. So, I mean, the best coaches are always the ones that, are inspiring and build a culture that is successful outside of the sport as well, because, life isn't all about the sport, whatever it is that you do, whether it's track and field, tennis, baseball, soccer, it doesn't really matter. So as long as they take the chance on the person that you are, I think that's just all the difference in the world.
Right. Understood. Yeah. And I think that's a great point. I think as athletes, a lot of time it's like we either wait for someone to reach out to us, or we think that things may never work out. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, the worst someone can say is no. I think it's worth reaching out to as many coaches as you can if college sports is somewhere you want to go, like you said. And
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes it's gonna work out. Sometimes, like, when you don't think anything is gonna happen, you may get a referral, or you may make a great contact. So definitely worth
Absolutely.
considering. Yeah,
Yep. Just like a
as an
job,
athlete.
send out the application, send out your resume, get your name out there, because you might not be a good fit for one job, but you could be a fit for another job, and you never know who knows what. So it's the same thing in the coaching world. You send out your name, your personal best, what you do, what school you go to, and even though you might not be a fit at a school, you might be a fit at another school. And coaches are always connected; they're always talking. So I mean, it definitely is something that I would suggest to a lot of kids. Is just put your name out there, see what happens.
Right. So on the topic of reaching out and recruiting, could you walk
Mm-hmm.
me through, as a coach, the process that you go through when you're picking up new athletes? So
Mm-hmm.
how is that, like, how would a coach approach that? What do you look for? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe something, if there's something unique that maybe a lot of kids don't consider when they're talking to coaches.
Mhm.
Could you talk about all the things that kind of come into that?
Yeah, so I mean, can't really speak for any other sport outside of track and field, but
Sure,
specifically
yeah,
with
of
track,
course.
I think the great thing about this sport is it's very concrete, right? If you run 4:30 in the mile, you run 4:30 in the mile. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like you are a 4:30 miler. So it's always good to look into a program where like, okay, this is what I run. How do I fit in with all these other runners? How do I fit in with all the guys on the team? Where would I be? You don't want to be joining a team where, I mean, you don't want to be joining a team where, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, because you want to surround yourself with the kids who have like abilities. That way you can continue to get better. It's hard to be at an elite level where you want to be if you are training with people who are way above you or way beneath you. You need to surround yourself with the right amount of talent. So I think that doing your own research on that is key. Um, and then in terms of like something that coaches look at that not a lot of kids, I guess, understand would be demographics. So, a state like California, right? Dude, that car alarm just keeps on going off. It's making me crazy. The state of California, right? Huge population, a lot of kids, a lot of talent, school places in like New Jersey, right? Very densely populated. A lot of kids are involved in the sport. Then you look at a place like, Wyoming, Hawaii, right? Like you could be the top runner in the state, but, being the top runner in the state of 5 kids, like that doesn't really make you stand out. So I think something that I look at as always like, okay, well, he was you know, and the New Jersey state champion for Group 1, right? Out of the smaller schools, and New Jersey state champion Group 4, right? So, yes, you're a state champion, what you do, but if I look at the times and I look at the competition, I'm like, okay, well, you know, he stands out in that way, but it's not at the level that we want. So I think it's important that where you are and where you're located is important as well, because you don't want to be in a place like Wyoming and then reach out to a school like University of Florida and it just be like, okay, like he's good, but when he gets down to this level or he steps up to this level, he's probably not, or she is not going to be where they want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, the way I'm understanding this is that, just because you have a title or just because you are the best in your state, the best in your school, this or that, doesn't make you truly, truly top in the country or the top where you see yourself fitting.
Right.
And I think it goes the other way too. Like, you know, if there are states or schools or anywhere where it's super competitive and the overall level is so high, I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm only this on the school team or I'm only
Mm-hmm.
this place in the state. But, you know, like you said, in a state like New Jersey, I mean, I'm sure the top of the state, whether you're number one or number five, it's probably still at a very high level. It's probably at a
Mm-hmm.
very similar level. So
Absolutely.
I think that's something that people get caught up in, like
The
the
flash,
title, or
the goal, the
people.
titles,
Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it's something that I think a lot of kids have to look at and to get a lot of, an ego check, I guess I would say, is the biggest thing. Yeah, like I might be the best in the state, but that doesn't mean if I reach out to a coach and say, hey, I think I could contribute here, I think I could do this, and it's just not, if it's not true, you know. So I think it's best to do the
right.
research and be like, okay, well, I know I could be successful. If I reach out to this coach, I know I could be successful here because of these reasons, this. But reaching out and being like, or a coach looking at you, it's the same thing either way. So,
Right. And so we kind of talked about the performance itself, because of course that you can't get onto you can't be playing college level sports and not have a college level athletic performance to back you up.
mhm.
But at the end of the day, I'm sure there are many runners that are very similar. Like they run at a high level. So do you look into who they are as a person their background, things like that when you make those decisions? Or, do you guys primarily consider athletic record as the majority of your recruitment process?
No, absolutely. We look at the person. A big thing about the University of Florida that I have noticed about all the teams that I've been involved in is the culture. As much as we have a winning culture, like the team supports each other. They're all friends with each other. No one, from what I understand, from what I see, I don't see a lot of enemies being made. Everyone supports each other, and that's the thing about the Gator community as well. Is like track and field will go support volleyball, or they'll go support tennis. So I think just the culture that you build is huge as well. So you don't want to bring someone into your team during the recruiting process. You're talking to them, you kind of realize, well, this kid is kind of a butthead. I don't think he's going to do well with these kids. He has an ego, like I said before about the ego checks. Like, you don't want kids like that coming in and being like, well, I'm better than all these kids, or, I don't belong here because of this and this and this. I think that's important as well. So, of course, be yourself in the recruiting process. If someone doesn't like you or you're not a good fit for them, like, you're not a good fit, but that doesn't mean you're not a good fit somewhere else, So I think being yourself is key, but yeah, definitely culture is a big thing. So, yeah, that's something that coaches look for as well. Just making sure you're a good kid, staying on top of the grades, because it's student athlete first, right? So if you don't have good grades, you can't compete. So,
Right. Is that, you know, do you often see incredible talent with academics that doesn't back that up, and then you have to kind of reject that student, or not accept that student into the program? Does that happen more often than people would think, or is that kind of a rare case for track?
usually in track and field is funny just because a lot of kids are kind of nerds. You know what I mean? Like in a sport like this, like kids are smart, So I haven't really had an instance that we've experienced that like the athletic performance and the academics don't keep up. Sure, like it's kind of like a job being a college athlete. So kids might fall behind in classes or fail a test here and there. Like it happens just like any other student. But that's why you have the resources. You get the tutoring done. Like you get the study hall hours. Like you got to do all the things to stay on top of it. So not really. You don't really see that a lot in the sport. But again, just using the resources you have and just staying on top of everything. If you stay on top of your academics as much as you stay on top of your athletic performance, like you'll be all good.
You find that sometimes you can't just love the game. There has to be something else with that. And would you say that that's something to consider before they go out and play college sports? Because even though they think they love the game, does it take more than that?
Right. Short answer is yes. If you want to be at the level you want to be at, like very less than 1% become professional sports, like across the board. It's maybe like 0.01% or something like that, whether it's football or track and field. So becoming a professional in whatever sport you do is extremely difficult. So the chances of you even getting to the next level, unless you are already like way up in the projections, like it's difficult anyways. So, yes, you have to love the sport in order to keep up with it, and to make it a part of your daily life, because it's a daily thing, especially in sport like cross country and track and field, where the season runs from August and it goes all the way until May or June. And then you have your off season training starting in June. So it's really a year round sport. So you have to make it your identity very much so. But again, if you love it, you make it a part of your day, it gets blended in with your athletics and you make your friends this way. You know what I mean? Like my best man at my wedding was someone that I met through the Seton Hall cross country team. Like you run so many miles with these kids, like you get to know somebody by doing that. So, I love it so much. I made it my career. You know what I mean? So if you want to get involved in college athletics and you just want to do it just to pass the time, maybe it's not something that you should consider, because it takes up a lot of your time. And especially if you're going to be on a scholarship or you have these expectations that you are expected to meet, like you got to keep up with that. You don't want to be kicked out of school or lose a scholarship or anything like that because of all these other distractions you have going on. If you want to go to college and you want to party and you want to keep up on your academics and also be a top athlete, like those things don't mix. The three major things in college that you could only do well, you could only do two of them well. It's social life, academics, and athletics. So one of them has to be sacrificed. And you better choose your academics because one, school is stupid expensive. And if you are involved in athletics, like you better choose that. So something in your social life is going to have to give. So whether it's going out and partying on a Saturday night or a Friday night or going out to a game on Thursday, when you know you have practice the next day or you know you have a project you got to do, those are the things you got to keep up on. So yes, you could do all three, but a little bit of something has got to give from all of them. So when you're being a student athlete, like you got to choose those two first.
Understood. I think, yeah, it's actually quite funny because I spoke to a college athlete. His name is Ryan Fishback a couple episodes ago, and he was saying the same thing. He was saying, there is, as an athlete, there is that sacrifice of the social life, and I think that's huge. For, like, people might think that's funny. People might be like, yeah, it's okay. Like either like one end, like it's okay, I won't socialize, or oh, I'll be able to get it all done. But I think it's a serious thing. Like people don't understand how much of their social life that's they're gonna have to give up, how serious that is, or that how much time college sports takes. Like, I think from what I've noticed, it's another step from high school. It's not just your 3 to 5 practice after school every day, and that's it. Like it's way more than that, and people should hopefully be able to see that before they make the decision, whether they're
Right.
that level or they're not. But I think
that's key across all three divisions, or whether you decide to go to an NIA school. Like, I think the percentage of athletes that go D1 in track and field specifically, I think is like 1.2% of high school athletes actually go to D1 level. And I think D2 is like maybe 2.1 and D3 is like 1.6. So same thing, it doesn't matter what level you choose to go at, less than 2% are actually involved in the sport. So yes, if you want to just make it social hour or, because you did it in high school and you liked it and the friends you made, like, it's not always going to be an option for everybody. Like there's different clubs and, fraternities and sororities and all these things you could get involved in if you just want to be social. That's what college is about. Because sometimes that's just the experience people want in college. Like, and that's perfectly fine. But athletics is just, you got to think of it as a separate entity from college,
Understood. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to wrap it up. And I, definitely good stuff to pull from that. And I hope people are going to be thinking about that as, what we just recently touched up on, a lot more seriously. I hope people consider that. But yeah, I appreciate the wisdom and the time you took today. Thank you.
For sure. Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You as well.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed episode 6 of my podcast. Next week will be episode 7 with Jeff Porter, who represented Team USA in the 2012 and 2016 Olympics. Another great episode, back-to-back track and field episodes. I'm super excited for that, so make sure you guys check it out. Have a good one.